Princess Diana's hidden letter. Princess Diana's letters have long revealed her love, fears, and hopes. In 2024, a newly uncovered letter to her sons, William and Harry, sheds light on the future she had envisioned for them. She wanted them to have the freedom she never had, urging them to prioritize happiness over duty. But why did this letter remain undisclosed for so long? What did it reveal about her struggles? And did her words predict the lives her sons would later choose? The intimate remarks Diana left behind have been the subject of decades of speculation. Over the years, letters, notes, and diary entries have surfaced, offering glimpses into her thoughts and concerns. However, a letter long believed lost has now emerged, a deeply personal message addressed to William and Harry, rather than to a friend, counselor, or member of the royal family. Its contents may challenge long-held perceptions of Diana's final years. A letter kept from the public. This letter remained hidden for more than 20 years before being discovered in a private collection of Diana's personal correspondence. When experts uncovered it in 2024, they were astonished. Unlike a simple note of affection, this letter carried something far more profound. Written in Diana's distinctive handwriting, it expressed the emotions of a mother who foresaw the struggles her sons would face. The public was never meant to see this letter, yet now it demands to be heard. To understand its significance, one must look back to the years when Diana first realized the future she wanted for her children would not be easily achieved. A mother's struggle. Diana's battle to remain involved in William and Harry's lives intensified as her marriage to Prince Charles crumbled. She knew that once she was no longer the future king's wife, her position as their mother could be weakened. The royal institution had its own ways of handling such matters, and by the time her separation from Charles was announced in December 1992, Diana was already preparing for the possibility that her role would be restricted. For centuries, royal heirs had been raised under the monarchy's strict governance, where duty often outweighed personal choices. Diana feared the same forces that shaped previous generations of royal children would overshadow her influence. As William and Harry grew older, her letters from that period reflected growing unease. She confided in friends about her worries, and one letter from 1993 contained a particularly haunting line. "I live for my boys. I would be lost without them." This was more than a declaration of love. It was a plea. It revealed the deep emotional bond she shared with her sons and her fear of losing them. Raising royals differently, Diana made conscious efforts to expose William and Harry to life beyond the royal walls. She took them to fast food restaurants, amusement parks, and places where they could interact with people outside their privileged circle. Rejecting the tradition of private tutoring at the palace, she insisted they attend public school. These choices were deliberate, ensuring her sons experienced the world beyond royal formality. However, not everyone supported her decisions. For generations, the royal family had maintained a level of separation from the general public. Diana's approach disrupted this tradition, earning her immense popularity but also creating tensions within the palace. Many were uneasy with her redefining how a future king and his younger brother should be raised. The 1995 Panorama interview. Diana's now famous BBC Panorama interview in 1995 heightened these tensions. It was a pivotal moment in history. She spoke candidly about the pressures of royal life, her family struggles, and most importantly, her concerns for William and Harry's future. "I want them to understand people's emotions, people's insecurities, people's distress, hopes, and dreams." Princess Diana's final letters. By the mid-1990s, Diana had transformed from a devoted mother to a woman openly challenging the royal establishment. Her divorce from Prince Charles was finalized in 1996, stripping her of the title Her Royal Highness, though she remained the Princess of Wales. Despite her changed status, her unwavering dedication to William and Harry remained evident in the letters and notes she continued to write to them. Some letters were simple expressions of love, while others revealed deeper concerns. During William's time at Eton College, Diana wrote to him about kindness and compassion, values she had always instilled in her sons. "You are so loved, and I hope you never forget that. Taking care of others comes first," she reminded him. Among the many letters she left behind, one would later stand out. A final, urgent message suggesting that Diana sensed her time was limited. Thought lost for years, this letter resurfaced in 2024. Unlike her previous writings, this note carried not only words of love, but also a chilling warning, a growing sense of unease. As Diana approached the final year of her life, her concerns for her children intensified. By early 1997, she had further distanced herself from the royal hierarchy, devoting herself to humanitarian efforts. Her advocacy for AIDS patients, landmine victims, and various charities gained international recognition. But privately, her priority remained securing a future for William and Harry beyond the rigid constraints of royal life. She feared William, as the future king, would be trapped in an emotionally restrictive system and worried that Harry, the younger brother, would struggle to find his place. These anxieties became a recurring theme in her letters. Over time, friends and staff observed that Diana had grown more cautious, acutely aware of the forces around her. In one particularly ominous letter, she wrote, "I have so much I want to say, but I'm not sure if I'll ever get the opportunity." The meaning of these words would only become clear later, as Diana's life took a tragic turn. The summer of 1997. By the summer of 1997, Diana had finally freed herself from the obligations of royal life. While her divorce had granted her independence, it had also severed her ties to the security protections afforded to senior royals. Without that shield, she was left more vulnerable than ever to relentless media scrutiny. For over a decade, Diana had endured intense press attention, but now, without the restrictions of royal protocol, she was truly on her own. Despite this, she remained deeply committed to being an active mother, frequently appearing in public with William and Harry and ensuring they experienced life beyond the palace gates. At the same time, she continued writing in private, leaving behind letters filled with love, concern, and hope for her sons' futures. During the summer, she traveled extensively, spending time with loved ones. Yet, her correspondence took on a new urgency. While she had always spoken of the emotional toll royal life had taken on her, there was now an underlying sense of fear in her words. In July, she vacationed in the south of France with Dodi Fayed. Media speculation about her personal life intensified, and photographers followed her every move. The relentless coverage made it clear Diana, who had fought so hard for her freedom, was still unable to escape the public eye. Diana's final letters to her sons. Diana had long fought against media intrusion, yet in the summer of 1997, she remained the focus of relentless scrutiny. Despite this, she stayed connected with William and Harry, who were spending the summer in Scotland with the royal family. She frequently wrote to them, expressing how much she missed them. One letter contained the simple but powerful words, "You are my world, and I will always love you." While she often reassured her sons of her love, these words carried even greater weight in the final months of her life. Speculation about Diana's future plans dominated the weeks before her tragic death. Some believed she was preparing to expand her humanitarian work, while others thought she was ready to speak publicly about her struggles with the press. She spent time on the French Riviera before arriving in Paris on August 30th, 1997. That evening, she made a final phone call to William and Harry, speaking to them with warmth and affection. It seemed like an ordinary conversation, but in hindsight, it became one of the most significant moments of the night. Just hours later, Diana's life was cut short in a car accident at the Pont de l'Alma tunnel. A profound loss and lingering questions. As news of Diana's death spread, the world mourned the loss of a woman who symbolized compassion and change. But for William and Harry, the grief was deeply personal. They had lost their mother after spending the summer apart from her. At just 15 and 12 years old, they were thrust into public mourning, expected to uphold royal decorum despite their devastating loss. In the days following her death, a question lingered. Had Diana left anything behind for her sons? A final letter, a message of love, or a glimpse into her hopes for their future? While she had shared many thoughts in interviews and previous letters, the possibility of a secret message remained. Diana's close friends and staff knew she had written to her boys regularly, often reminding them of how deeply they were loved. Some of her letters were simple expressions of affection, while others carried deeper meaning, especially given the struggles she faced. Over time, these letters became cherished keepsakes for William and Harry, reminders of their mother's warmth and unwavering devotion. Though the royal family kept personal correspondence private, discussions about Diana's letters persisted. Some had been entrusted to close friends, while others remained in her collection. Eventually, a few surfaced, revealing her deepest emotions. In one letter to a confidant, she wrote, "I live every day to make sure they know they are loved beyond measure, because they are my greatest joy." After her divorce, she had also expressed concern about how her sons would cope, writing, "I just want them to be happy and grow up knowing they are supported, no matter what." The discovery of a hidden letter. For years, speculation swirled about whether Diana had written a final message to her sons. Some believed such a letter was stored in private royal archives, while others thought it had been lost among her personal belongings. This mystery remained unsolved until 2024, when previously unseen letters were discovered at a private auction. Among them was a note to William and Harry that had been kept secret for decades. Written in early 1997, this letter carried a sense of urgency. While Diana had often spoken about wanting her sons to feel loved and supported, this message contained something more, a reflection on the challenges they might face, the pressures of their royal roles, and her silent wish that they would always have the courage to follow their own paths. In hindsight, her words took on a new significance, especially given the choices William and Harry would later make. Even within the constraints of royal life, Diana had always wanted her sons to have independence, options, and the freedom to be themselves. Through her letters, she left behind not just words, but a legacy of love and resilience, one that continues to shape the lives of the sons she adored. Diana's letter, a mother's lasting influence. Diana's ideals profoundly shaped the lives of her sons, William and Harry. When details of a hidden letter surfaced, questions arose. Why had it been kept secret for so long? Had it been deliberately concealed or simply overlooked? More importantly, what did it reveal about Diana's hopes for her children's future? As the letter's contents became public, discussions reignited about her growing concerns in the final months of her life. Some believed it had been discreetly preserved, while others thought it had simply taken years to come to light. Whatever the reason, its message was now being examined with fresh perspective. Diana had always been an expressive person, frequently writing letters to those she loved, particularly her sons. This specific letter stood out, not just for its content, but for its growing sense of urgency. She had often spoken about the pressures of royal life, the constant scrutiny she endured, and her desire to protect her children from the same hardships. However, this letter suggested she had been thinking even further ahead. Written just months before her death, it reinforced a message she had long emphasized. Their happiness was more important than royal duty, and they should never feel trapped by expectations. While Diana had always wanted her children to have a different experience than she did, this letter was different. It was not just a wish, it was an encouragement for them to actively pursue their freedom. She wrote about the rigid customs of the monarchy, warning how people could be consumed by societal expectations if they didn't set their own boundaries. More than ever, she urged William and Harry to remember who they were beyond their royal roles. A mother's foresight. For years, speculation swirled about Diana's sense of foresight. In past conversations, she had spoken about feeling watched, even telling friends she suspected she was being followed. The tone of this letter suggested she had considered the possibility that she might not always be there to guide her sons. Although it did not explicitly mention danger, it carried an unmistakable sense of urgency. Diana had a complex view of the monarchy. While she never fully rejected its traditions, she was also critical of its emotional detachment. By the late 1990s, she believed that for the monarchy to survive, it had to evolve. She knew her sons would always be connected to the royal family, but she emphasized that their personal choices were just as important as their public roles. She encouraged them to embrace change, challenge outdated customs, and prioritize their well-being, a reflection of their paths. In many ways, Diana's letters seemed to foreshadow the choices William and Harry would make as adults. As the future king, William balanced royal duties with a modern approach to family life. He and Catherine Middleton chose to raise their children in a more normal, hands-on way, something rare in royal tradition. Harry, on the other hand, took a different path. His decision to step away from royal responsibilities in 2021 marked a break from the expectations placed on him since birth. Though the letter did not dictate their futures, its themes deeply resonated with both brothers. It reinforced the idea that Diana had long feared they would struggle under the same system that had caused her pain. She wanted them to feel empowered to make their own choices, and in the years that followed, they did exactly that. Diana's enduring legacy. The revelation of this letter reignited debates about the monarchy's place in the modern world. Diana had always advocated for change, and her words felt more relevant than ever. Since her death, the royal family had evolved in many ways, but certain tensions remained. Public opinion was divided. Some believed in modernizing traditions, while others insisted on preserving them. To William and Harry, the letter was a deeply personal reminder of their mother's love and guidance. To the world, it was proof that Diana's voice still carried weight decades after her passing. The public conversation surrounding her letter expanded beyond her sons, becoming part of a larger discussion about her lasting impact on the monarchy. During her life, Diana was often seen as a disruptive force, challenging traditions in ways that unsettled those around her. But in the years after her death, her influence only grew. Both of her sons carried her lessons with them. William sought to modernize the royal system from within, while Harry chose to break away entirely. Their choices reflected the very principles Diana had fought for, the right to live on their own terms. Even in death, Diana remained a guiding force, shaping the future of the royal family and reminding the world of the power of her voice. Diana's influence on her sons. In 2000, discussions around the royal family intensified when personal revelations emerged. Harry spoke candidly in interviews about the difficulties of growing up in the spotlight and the pressures of royal life. His choice to step away was driven by a desire to protect his family and well-being, echoing Diana's concerns decades earlier. When Diana's letter surfaced, it provided deeper insight into these choices. She had expressed her wish for her sons to always have the freedom to make their own decisions. Rather than prescribing a path, she emphasized the importance of staying true to oneself. Powerful words in a monarchy where duty and tradition reign supreme. Beyond her sons, the letter reignited discussions about Diana's relationship with the royal family. She had been adored by the public in a way few royals had, yet she often felt isolated within the palace. She spoke about feeling unheard, wanting to make the monarchy more open and compassionate, and facing resistance to her efforts. While not always welcomed, her attempts to modernize the royal image undeniably shifted public perception. Her influence was unmistakable, shaping not only William and Harry's perspectives, but also how the younger generation viewed the monarchy. A letter that challenged tradition. As the letter's details were examined, theories arose about why it had remained hidden for so long. Some believed it was deliberately kept from the public, while others thought it had been withheld out of respect for William and Harry. Historically, royal correspondence was strictly guarded, and important letters often remained private for years. However, the letter's emergence was significant, surfacing at a time when debates over the monarchy's future were more intense than ever. For those who had followed Diana's life closely, the letter reaffirmed her values. She was more than a royal figure. She was a mother who fought for her children's right to a life beyond their titles. She was a humanitarian who used her platform to shed light on issues often ignored. Most of all, she was a woman who defied a system that did not always value individuality. Though written decades ago, her words still resonated, addressing timeless questions. What role does emotion play in a tradition-driven institution? Should duty take precedence over personal happiness? And can the royal family evolve while preserving its legacy? The lasting impact of Diana's words. William and Harry's responses to these questions took different forms. Harry ultimately left the monarchy, while William chose to remain, working to modernize it from within. Both paths highlighted the challenge of being born into an institution with predetermined expectations. Diana's letter, though written at a different time, seemed to anticipate these struggles. She wanted her sons to know they were more than their titles, that their identities were not confined to the roles they were born into. As news of the letter spread, it became clear that Diana's voice had never faded. Her influence continued to shape her sons' choices, spark discussions about the monarchy, and challenge the public's perception of what it meant to be royal in today's world. She had always been ahead of her time, recognizing shifts before they became evident to others. Decades after her passing, her words still inspired, questioned, and reminded the world of the woman who once redefined what it meant to be a princess.